Today I was supposed to be back in DC, but I'm currently in a duplex in Bogota. And this is why I believe that the best skill that you can have as an entrepreneur, if you're an early entrepreneur, if you're a freelancer that's looking to transition into being a true entrepreneur, build your business, is to be able to be adaptable. I think that is probably single handedly one of the most important skills that you can develop. And if you learn to hone that skill set early on, it will serve you greatly as you continue to build your business. And this incident, I don't even really want to call it an incident, but more so an opportunity that occurred today reminded me of the importance of adaptability and the importance of making sure that you have robust systems that are also fluid and can also adapt and are not rigid. I think one of the biggest reasons that a lot of businesses go out of business is because they are too rigid and they're not able to adapt with the changes in industry or the changes in behavior of their customer or just the changes in generation. And I think, especially when we talk about the advent of AI and all of these different technologies that are coming into play, you have to be able to adapt to the landscape that is upon us. So I was supposed to be back in DC right now as I'm making this video, but I got on the plane, and after about an hour and a half of us being boarded, they said that they had to change the aircraft due to a maintenance issue. Now, praise the Lord that we didn't take off into the air knowing that there was a maintenance issue. But because of that, my connecting flight from Bogota to DC ended up getting delayed, and I had to get it rescheduled, rebooked. And there weren't any dates for today. So what happened was that I now have to fly out tomorrow. But in that moment, when I knew that now things were going to be thrown off, I didn't feel any type of way. I tried to look for the opportunity in what was going on and what was transpiring. And what I found was that this is exactly what was supposed to happen. And my ability to adapt to it is what actually was going to help propel me forward. I have a coaching client that I'm working with on business coaching, and we had a few talks during this week. He's been implementing some of the advice and the insights that I've been giving him, and he lives in Bogota. And it's just interesting, and it's funny how the moment that I'm getting ready to go back to DC, I now have to spend the night in Bogota, and now we're getting ready to, go grab a bite to eat later today. So I always want to be able to look for the opportunity in any situation that may seem as if it's something that is going awry. And I've talked about this quite a bit, especially on my Instagram and just in conversations with other people, about the importance of recognizing that when something does not go according to plan or the way that you expect it, that it is in that particular moment that is a specific lesson for you to learn something, so that way you can grow and that way you can move forward and be able to become the person that you're actually striving to be. Now, you may say, okay, Caleb, all of that sounds great. All of that makes sense, but how do we relate this to business? And first off, we have to make sure that we understand the identity that it requires in order to have that perspective. Because I can guarantee you there were many people that were on that flight that probably were frustrated, that probably are still frustrated right now that their plans got thrown off. And me, I was not frustrated one bit, right? Because I knew that it was going to allow me to have an opportunity to do something that was going to ultimately propel myself even further than if things would have just went according to plan. So you have to understand that, because in business, number one, there's going to be a lot of things that happen that don't go according to plan. And you're going to have to overcome hurdles, overcome challenges, and you're going to have to break your business time and time again in order to hit that next level. But on a deeper sense, right, or I guess you could say a more practical sense, on the deeper sense, that's more so the identity and the mindset behind it, right? We have to make sure that we see ourselves as people who adapt, right? We have to make sure that we see ourselves as people who know what to do in circumstances and situations like this. I was able to get this beautiful Airbnb with, a 2-story duplex for $47 tonight. And I'm literally like 10 minutes from the airport. And it was that quick thinking and that adaptability where I had already accepted the situation for what it was. And I knew, okay, I'm going to make sure that I take the actions that need to be taken so that way I can make the most of this situation, which is why I'm able to make a amazing looking video for you guys right now and give you insights. And I did this strategically. I picked this particular Airbnb strategically for the sake of making content. Now, that's going to show up in your business, right? So you want to make sure that you have that identity and you have that mindset of somebody who is adaptable to changes and circumstances. But if we go a little bit deeper and we dive a little bit deeper into the actual practicality of what all of this means, it really comes down to systems. And like I said, we want to make sure that we have robust systems that are not rigid, that are able to be fluid. Because I have a client shoot a media day with them on Friday, which is the main reason why I decided to come back on Tuesday to give myself a little bit of buffer time. But I recognized that even I myself have to continue to do more work to solidify systems within my business and also make sure that those systems are robust, right? Robust in the sense of they can handle anything because they're able to be fluid and flexible. They're not rigid. So imagine if I wasn't able to get my flight rebooked until next Monday and I would have had to miss that media day on Friday. What would I do? Now, granted, I have 2 other people that are going to be on site and be there that I can trust to get the job done without me there. But how would I be able to navigate that change and adapt to that circumstance effortlessly and fluidly within the system that I've created for myself? That is what we have to ask ourselves. Are we building systems within our business that allow us to be able to handle situations and circumstances like that without it feeling like we have to put out a fire? Because if it feels like we have to put out a fire, then 9 times out of 10, the system is not robust enough. And that means that it can be iterated upon, it can be enhanced, and it can be improved. So we have to start digging a little bit deeper into our systems, into our operations, and ask ourselves, if we never stepped foot again on a job site, on any type of client operations, how would the business still run and how will we be able to know that it's effective, right? So this even got me reflecting of ways that I can implement more robustness into my system and improve it, right? So that way, now at this point, if that were to happen, I don't need to brief or prep anybody that's going to be on site that's going to be there, because they would already know exactly what to do and they would already be able to execute as if I were not there. Now, granted, the 2 people that I do have working with me, I'm in the process of training them to get to that point. But even in that circumstance, there should be a system in place that has already gotten them up to speed, at least on that particular project and on that particular shoot. So it got me reflecting and it got me thinking, okay, there's improvements that I can make myself that can allow me to also ensure that my systems are fluid enough to handle these types of circumstances and these types of changes. Adaptability. So the main thing is to understand the mindset that we need to have as entrepreneurs, which is really, in my opinion, one of the most important skills and pieces of your mindset that you can build up. That ability to adapt to change, that ability to adapt to circumstances that you may not have been expecting. And if you hear my washer going crazy in the back, yes, I'm washing clothes right now. So apologies if that's coming through pretty loudly. But what it really means to be adaptable is to be able to navigate every circumstance, not perfectly, but navigate it effectively and be able to make quick decisions, right? We don't want to have decision fatigue or delays in decision making because our systems are not enhanced, because our systems are not fortified, and because we haven't allowed enough fluidity within them. Now, you may be saying, Caleb, these are like high level concepts, right? What are the what's the nitty gritty? What's the practical? Honestly, I don't know what that means for you. I'll be honest. I know what it means for me. I know what it means for my business. I know what it means that I have to now do and the actions I have to take to implement, so that way the next time that something like this happens, that there's no issues. And granted, I'm coming back before the actual media day, so there isn't an issue, but I'm putting myself in that scenario as if it were, because I would not be fully prepared if it were, right? The job would still get done, things would still work, but there would be an added level of stress on me as the business owner, because my systems are not robust enough, they're not fortified, and they're not fluid. So I know what actions I need to start taking to implement that and to enhance that and to build those systems up. I can't say exactly what that means for you in your industry, but what I can say is that if you're able to shift your mindset and shift your perspective, that will give you clarity on where to start. And when you can align that internally, right, with where you are and where you're trying to go to, you'll be able to identify gaps and blind spots that you may not have seen before. So we always want to make sure that we are in a growth mindset of adaptability. And we also want to make sure that we're understanding how we can continuously implement and build systems that allow us that ability to adapt, right? Because the same way that we're going to have to adapt year over year, every 5 years, every 10 years within the industry, especially if you're in something that has to do with tech or marketing or whatever the case is, it's always changing, right? It's not just that, right? It's a little bit deeper. We have to get deeper and we have to get more internal, right? We have to apply that same approach on the growth of the business to the internal systems and infrastructure of the business as well. And I don't think a lot of people think about it like that until those things happen and you're forced to think about it. So I want you to take this situation that I've been through as an opportunity to start questioning, what are the ways that my system is not robust? What are the ways that it's not fluid? How rigid is it? Can I break it if I throw a particular scenario or circumstance at it to where it won't work? And if so, why won't it work? Now let's dig deep into that and let's figure out how to fix that, how to improve that, right? Because those are the questions that I had to ask myself. Those are the reflections that I had today as I was on the flight and as I was waiting for my flight to come out here to Bogotá. So I'm extremely grateful for this experience and how it's transpired and everything. And like I always say, you have to be able to have that mindset with life just in general, of being able to be adaptable, being able to see the opportunity in every circumstance, because this was not a setback for me at all. This actually propelled me forward. And it actually gave me a lot of confirmation on things that I was searching for. So this is something for me that I would say is really going to be a game changer for solidifying systems to allow me to fully operate my business in the US while I'm living in Colombia. And this was something that needed to happen before I could get the clarity on what steps to take and what actions that are going to get me to that place. So I invite you to ask those reflective questions to yourself. What circumstances or situations, if thrown at you, would break your business? If somebody came to you right now, 4 people came to you right now and said, we want to offer you $20,000 contracts for a certain amount of work and all these, these different things. Would your system be able to handle it, or would it break the business? Would you not be able to have the capacity to do that? These are the types of questions that we want to ask, right? If you ended up, God forbid, I don't want anyone to get hurt, but if you broke your leg or if you were out of commission or whatever the case is, would that break the system that you have? We have to make sure that the systems that we're building within our business are robust enough to handle most any situation, and that they're fluid enough to adapt to any situation, right? Because if they're too rigid, then they may be really, really good at handling a handful of situations, but then you throw a curveball and then it just completely shatters the entire system. And now you're having to put out a fire, and now you're having to frantically and nervously, and you're having all of this stress around trying to fix the issue and trying to fix the problem. But if we can be proactive in building those systems up and thinking of every angle as to which we can continue to fortify it, then I think that we will be much better off in the long run. And that will allow us to not only have more peace of mind, but that will allow us the time freedom, the location freedom, the ability to scale, and also provide that value to others and serve others by providing them an opportunity to also provide for themselves. So I want you to take that time to reflect on those questions, think about what you can do to improve your systems, and I will catch you in the next one.